Today we're taking a look at the mid-year introduction from PSE on the 2022 Omen. Just a reminder guys, head on over to mikesarchery.com to pick up any of our latest logo gear. We got plenty of hats and shirts, as well as any gear you might need for your next adventure. Welcome back to Mike's Archery's YouTube, and today we are taking a look at a mid-year introduction from PSE. They've come to us here on July 1st with the new 2022 Omen, and it's a completely redesigned, much faster bow than what they've had in the last several years, kind of picking the speeds up a little above some of these other bows that they put out. Now, as always, PSE stuff's still made right down there in Arizona, keeping everything made here in the USA, and the delivery times are pretty good on this bow if you're looking at picking up one of these brand new bows. Now let's go over some of the specs that PSE has put out on this. The speed rating on this bow is at 356 feet per second, and that is with the E2 cam. Now the S2 cam is coming in at 345 feet per second, and that is topping out at 28.5 inches. So if you're needing that shorter draw, you can still get pretty good speeds out of that shorter cam. The axle to axle on this bow is coming to us at 33 inches, and the overall cam to cam length is at 39.25. Now the brace height on this bow is pretty short. It's coming in at 5.5 inches on an E2 cam and 5.25 inches on an S2 cam. And that is where they are certainly picking up some of that speed, is with that shorter brace height. Now the reflex, when we measured that, came in at about 5 inches on the reflex, and the advertised weight on this bow is coming in at 4.5 pounds. Now we took it out of the box, threw it on the scales, and we got it at 4.8 pounds, coming in a little bit heavy. We looked, there really wasn't anything to take off this bow. There's no limb dampeners and extra stuff short of the string stop and things. So it is coming in just a little bit heavy, 0.3 of a pound at 4.8. Now the draw length range on this bow does depend on which cam option that you choose. If you pick that E2 cam, which is going to be the standard for most folks, it's going to be a bottom of 27 inches, going all the way out to 31 inches on the long end of that cam. Now if you do need that short draw option and you're hitting that 27, 26.5, and you want to be on the top end of that S2 cam, that cam is going to allow you to go from 24.5 inches all the way out to 28.5 inches, and you're just going to get better performance if you're one of those shorter draws out of that S2 cam. They are offering the new Omen in 60, 70, and 80 pounds. So if you need a really lightweight bow, this is probably not something you're going to want to look at, but if you're one of the guys that's trending towards that 80 pound or a typical 70 pounder, then certainly you're going to be able to pick up the new Omen in that peak weight range. They've kept with that evolved style cam and module, and it does have a let-off option from 80 to 90%. You're going to be able to adjust that on that module rotation. Now they are offering a low let-off module available for this cam, so if you don't want that 80 to 90% let-off and you want to drop it down to where you can get that 70, 75% just to get a little more holding weight, you certainly can swap out those modules. As with normal, the PSE allows you to take 10 turns off the limb pockets. Now once you get to those outer limb turns, cranking that weight down a lot more, you're going to lose some performance, and you're probably just better off to order you a lower peak weight, but it does allow quite a bit of range of weight change on just the standard limb pocket. Now some of the features on this bow, they have changed quite a bit, but they did keep with that new E2 and S2 cam option. Again, if you're needing that short draw or the long draw, just depends on which cam you're going to want to go with, and it is giving you peak performance throughout the draw cycle as well as that draw length. Now one of the other things that they talked about that they changed on this bow was the width. So they're saying that the limb pocket is coming in at about 15% wider with that new limb vise limb pocket. It's a slimmer, smaller, and lighter limb pocket, but still allowing to keep that locking system and being able to keep everything just dead tight and centered on the riser throughout the limb turns, giving better performance, allowing better load distribution across the axles, and just giving it a better feel and just more consistency at longer ranges. They've also increased the bearings, so they've given it a new tougher bearing system inside that 1/4 inch axle. PSE beefed that axle up here a few years back, and with that, the new bearing system in the Omen is just going to allow this bow to hold up to repeated shots for a longer life on those cams. Even though those modules did stay the same with that adjustable let-off, it actually has a wider draw stop. So when you come to full draw, it's going to allow you to give a harder back wall and be able to hit the center of that draw stop better, just giving it a better feel and a better rock solid back wall, even though it is a cable stop bow. Now the next thing that we noticed that PSE mentioned about this bow is their new full draw stabilization system, or FDS for short. Now the next thing that PSE has changed is this new full draw stabilization system, or FDS for short. It is being advertised as the most stable shooting experience that they have had, and that wider stance is part of it, but another part of it is what they're calling a dynamic brace height. Now we've talked to the folks at PSE to kind of get a better idea of what it is they're talking about with these new terms, and I can tell you it's just they're measuring things a little differently and seeing a better increased stability at longer distances because of this measurement. Now what we looked at that PSE gave us, they've asked us a proprietary number that they're measuring in the engineering process, so they've asked us not to go into too much depth on how they're getting these numbers, but what we noticed is some bows from other manufacturers actually have a shorter dynamic brace height, while PSE has a much longer dynamic brace height. That is something that's being measured at full draw, and it is something that is giving this a much stabler platform and allowing this bow not to torque as badly as other models and other brands. Now as we move across this redesign of this bow, some of the other things that we noticed are basic changes that are upgrades for this bow. The new guard lock cable slide is adjustable, but is also locked in place. If you're familiar with what PSE had in the past, it did allow for it to swing and move if things got loose, but they have locked this new cable rod system into place, but also still has some adjustability to tune out that torque on the cam. One of the other things they changed, they kept with the integrated system on the back for a QAD, but they've also added that core mount from Hamskea, so now you can use either integrated system from QAD or the core mount from Hamskea, bolting right onto that rest platform on the back of the riser. They kept with the PBT system, allowing you to micro tune those cables if you're needing to yoke tune a little bit to get some adjustments in there and really fine tune this bow. They've kept that PBT system on this new Omen. The riser is also dead in the hand. They've changed the configuration of this, and it is giving a lighter mass weight, but still giving a great feel overall in this bow. They kept with the standard 2 rest hole mounts, allowing you to lock down any rest on the market if it's got a long enough slot, so you know that that rest is permanently in place if you choose not to use the integrated system. They've also integrated a 2-piece quiver option into the riser, so you're going to be able to go back and pick up a triangle bracket 2-piece quiver if you're that guy that doesn't want to take their quiver off and on. This riser has that built in to give you that option. They kept with the multiple stabilizer holes, both in your standard position as well as down near the bottom limb pocket, and there are some threaded holes on the back of the riser if you want to weight that up, just to give the proper feel for your shooting style. One of the other things they kept on with this bow is a nice rubber grip, has a nice feel in the hand, keeping everything warm, but if you like that slimmer target style grip, you can certainly take a couple screws off, slide that rubber grip off, and you've got a nice slim torque-free grip underneath there to shoot with. Now PSE is offering this bow in several different color options, being 3 solid colors with your black, the charcoal that we have here, as well as the tan, and they're offering 5 camo options with your standard Mossy Oak Breakup Country, a First Light Fusion, your QU Verde, as well as a Subalpine or an Elevated 2, giving you plenty of color options to just outfit this bow in any way you would like. MAP retail on this bow is coming to you at $11.99, so it's right there with everybody else's flagship bows, as well as where PSE has positioned itself on the price point. From here, we're going to step over and take a few shots out of this bow. As usual, we're going to be shooting it over the chronograph with a 350 all the way out to a 500 grain arrow, giving you a breakdown on what this bow does as far as speed performance, noise rating, and just the overall feel of the bow. As usual, we'll start with that 400 grain arrow, shooting this bow on 70 pounds with 29-inch draw length and the 90% let off. So we've stepped back here to the range, and we are going to take a few shots over the chronograph, kind of give you a breakdown on what the new Omen is like as far as speed, on all those different weights of arrows, and then an overall feel of the bow. We're going to start with our 400 grain arrow at 70 pounds, 29-inch draw length at 90% let off. So let's see what kind of numbers this bow's posting. All right, so with a 400 grain arrow, we're seeing 314 feet per second. And this bow is advertised a little bit faster than everything else that they've had. It's certainly not the fastest bow they put out. If you remember a few years ago, they had that full throttle and a couple other models there that were IBO'd at like 370 and were just real screaming demons. But this bow is faster than pretty much everything else that's IBOing out there right now. And with a 314 feet per second at a 400 grain arrow, that's pretty daggone fast, and it's probably one of the fastest bows we've tested this year. Now, when you drop this down to a 350 grain arrow, the bow went to 332 feet per second, which is some blistering speeds, and on a hunting setup is really going to bring that pin gap really tight. And if you're wanting to shoot this bow on a 3D circuit, it's going to allow you to miss a yard or two here or there if you're guessing yardages. Now, as we came back up, as we said, 314 feet per second at 400 grains. As we got heavier with a 450 grain arrow, we got 297 feet per second. And with a 500 grain arrow, we saw 282 feet per second. Now, frankly, those are some really great speeds. And if you're wanting to even back your poundage down and get some similar performance that you were getting with a higher poundage, you're going to be able to take this bow, maybe drop another 5-8 pounds off of it, and be able to keep those same speeds and same performance that you were getting out of some other bows at a higher poundage weight. Now, the decibel rating on this bow, we shot it several times, and what we came up with was 98.6 decibels. Certainly not the loudest bow out there, most certainly not the quietest. It's a little towards the upper middle range of things, but as you get faster, you're certainly going to get louder. But overall, this bow is fairly quiet for the speeds that it's pumping out. Now, let's talk about the draw cycle on this bow. With that E2 cam, as we talked about earlier in the year on the Levitate and a few other models, it is holding that peak weight for 2 inches longer and is allowing to get that extra performance out of it. You are going to feel that, but I will say that the Omen, with a 5.5 inch brace height, that longer axle to axle on that E2 cam, may be one of the best feeling bows compared to the other models that PSE came out to this year. Even though it's got that same E2 cam on it, it's got a nice smooth draw cycle coming through all the way through. You're going to feel that peaking out and holding that weight, but really and truly it doesn't drop off bad at the back end. I would say the Levitate feels a little harsher than even this Omen does, and just the overall feel of this bow is extremely dead in the hand. As they've talked about with that new dynamic brace height, this bow holds extremely well, and you can feel it. When you shoot this bow, it feels different than some of the other models they've put out this year and even last year. It's just got a great feel to it, a great hold on it. I am not an advocate of a 5.5 inch brace height. Typically, I try to stay away from the speed, but really and truly, I think this bow is very shootable with that low brace height, and the feel in your hand is really good. It is as good or better than everything else that we've felt and shot this year. So with the speeds that it's pumping out, the feel that it's got to it, just overall, this Omen is a great package, and I see why PSE didn't want to hold it until 23 and went ahead and put it out here in the mid-year of 2022. So if this new Omen is something that you're looking at and really want to get your hands on, give us a call here at Mike's Archery. We'll be glad to get you set up with one.